moved away from disease control and the animals in a lot of ways to anti-government, anti-regulation, to a variety of other talking points beyond disease.
Okay, that's a recording. It's a snip from a CBC fact check that we ran yesterday when I interviewed Katie Espersen and Viva Fry. I hope a lot of you saw that. That broadcast was not seen by about a tenth as many people that should have been. Watch it again, or watch it today if you haven't. Share it with your friends and family. That's yesterday's. I'm David Krayden. I'm broadcasting to you from Ottawa this morning, and I've got more news about the Universal Ostrich Farms when I come back in mere moments.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Please share this broadcast with your friends and family. We need your support because I'm covering a story that a lot of other so-called conservative broadcasters don't want to talk about. And it's time that they talked about it, and it's time that Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre talked about this story because it's getting worse. You know, we're talking about those 399 ostriches in British Columbia that are in danger of being culled, in other words, killed, by agents of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Because after over 230 days now of being disease-free, they can't see the common sense that these birds have developed immunity and pose no threat to animals, wildlife, or humans. Only one person has contracted avian flu. They got over it, and they say, don't kill these birds. So the British Columbia health authorities were just itching for an avian flu epidemic this year so they could lock the province down like they did over COVID. They love their petty dictatorship. They love to tell you where you can go, to put a mask on, to stay, 6 feet away from people. That, you can take your mask off in a restaurant because it's got a bubble zone there. It's safe. And get your 3 or 4 injections, please, even though it's been untested. But here we go. Nothing happened, but the federal government, I lay this in the lap of Mark Carney, who needs to do something about this. But here's the latest from my good friend Viva Fry, David Freiheit, who was on the show yesterday with me to talk about this. And this is David's scoop. But I just saw this morning. The show was not going to be about the ostriches again today until I saw this. Important update on Universal Ostrich Farm. Please share. We're sharing it, David. I just spoke with someone with direct knowledge of these developments. It has been leaked to him or her that the Canadian government has already mobilized something of a task force to descend on the farm and kill the ostriches at Universal Ostrich Farms within the week. Specific timeline not disclosed. Apparently, an unknown but substantial number of authorities are in the process of or will imminently be descending on the farm to slaughter the ostriches. I am told that anyone who attempts to intervene will likely be arrested. I'm also told that the farm is attempting to install cameras to live stream the events as they unfold, but I suspect the authorities will attempt to disable cameras, interfere with any live streaming. Let them try. Quote unquote from me. I would never ask anyone to break the law, no, but the eyes of the world need to be on the situation. If you are in the area and want to support, I am told that there are slightly over a dozen supports on site. If you cannot be on site and want to support, please share this message and let the world know what is apparently about to transpire in Canada. I don't know how much more attention one can get above and beyond the White House. There needs to be political and social hell to pay if the Mark Carney government follows through on this slaughter. Maybe Pierre Poilievre can say something before it's too late. And with any luck, the biggest bullhorn on earth, Elon Musk, can out this on blast. It requires something of a miracle immediately. Now, apparently, Elon Musk and Joe Rogan are in earshot of hearing about this, and I'll get to that tweet in a second here. But I want to show you Katie's message, Katie Esperson's message from last night. Let's go back here. And she, by the way, Big Red just got some maintenance. And of course, the similarity here between Big Red and the provincial crown in Ontario wanting to take away Chris Barber's truck, his livelihood, is very similar to the federal government wanting to take away the livelihood of the ostrich farm in British Columbia, the Universal Ostrich Farm. And it's outrageous. Let's have a listen here to Katie.
Hi, everybody. This is Katie with Universal Ostrich Farms. 230 days. Happy, healthy, resilient, tall, amazing herd immunity ostriches. We got a tip off. This is why it's been taking me so long to make a video. It's been a very emotional day. And we got a tip that from a very reputable, reliable source that the Vancouver and Surrey Task Force has been initiated or mobilized to come to the farm to kill all of these big prehistoric animals that have survived millions of years. But they are at risk of their lives to Canadian Food Inspection Agency because of their lack of wanting to see true evidence, true proof. They don't want to see health. They don't want a test that shows that they're healthy. We've been being threatened 6 months in jail and a $200,000 fine for testing. We have proof that they're eggs through egg yolk that we have shows that they are not sick, that they do not pose a health risk, but they have robust antibodies. The one thing that kept going through my head tonight while my mom and I were doing chores, and I'll post one of those videos, it was pretty emotional. But it was, we're going to take this to the finish line. It's been 9 months, 230 days, healthy animals. We're going to take this to the finish line. We got one last touchdown before the game is over, and we're going to win this with dignity, with grace, with honor, and we are going to try to do whatever we can, just like we have for 9 months, to keep these animals alive. Remember that these are living, breathing creatures that have not been tested for disease or virus. They're out there and they've been thriving for 230 days. They're alive because of you. They're alive because you guys have made some noise. You've sent letters in to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. You've poured letters into Mark Carney, poured letters in across the world, from across the world. You've had the support from John Catsimatidis, from Dr. Oz, RFK, and we are doing an X Space in the morning. That X Space is with Amuse on X, and that's at 6 a.m. We have one last touchdown before the game is over, my beautiful ostrich family.
I might show you more of that interview later, but it's very important to note, and I'm going to have to share this again with you. Sorry about that. But this is where this stands right now, because we've got international interest in this story. And this is Amuse on X. He has the ear of Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. And here he is. Now, I think this has not gone live here yet, but we'll have more to report on this later, and certainly an update no later than tomorrow on this. But this is extremely good news, because they not only reposted the spot from X that was put up by Viva Fry, he's getting the word out. So I think this is fantastic. And we will, of course, be having a look at that later. So what is Mark Carney doesn't give a damn about ostriches, eh? Not at all. What does Mark Carney care about? Well, guess what, folks? You thought we've had enough of pride flags, of Pride Day, of Pride Week, of Pride Month, of Pride Season. Now it's Pride all year round, 24/7. How crazy is this government? Of course, this has nothing to do with every Canadian being equal under the law, notwithstanding their sexuality or how they feel about different things, how they think, what they believe. Yes, we're all equal under the law, but nobody should have special status, and nobody should have their sexuality promoted 365 days a year when it runs contrary to how a lot of people feel. I say live and let live. But I'm not going to promote pride 365 days a year, and neither should your government. The government needs to get real about what the priorities really are here. And I'm telling you, the priorities are life, liberty, and the property it seeks to take away from you. Let's watch this Liberal Party propaganda on how Mark Carney wants pride 365 days a year.
Pride is a promise. It is a promise to every young person, regardless of their identity, that they'll be able to walk through their school doors without being afraid of whether they can get safely through their day. It's a promise to every couple who wants to show affection, to be able to hold hands in public without looking over their shoulders. It's a promise to every Canadian that they will be respected, that their rights will be protected, that you will be safe in your own community and proud in your own skin. So let's celebrate Pride today, through this month, through every month, week, day, hour of the year, together for an even stronger and fairer Canada.
So that's what your Carney government is promoting. 365 days a year of Pride Fest. What happens at these Pride parades, these Pride marches, whatever you want to call them? Of course, we've got these are sybaritic rites. These are homages to hedonism. These are men walking around half nude or completely nude in front of children. And that's what Mark Carney wants to promote this 365 days a year. Is he real? Is this a man with half a brain? Yeah, he's clever. He's pushing an agenda, and he's pushing an agenda that's completely in sync with the globalism he has preached and practiced his entire adult life as an international banker and as a man who understands the real world. Sorry, Mark. I've had it with you, and I've had it with what you're pushing and promoting. Let Canadians just be Canadians, equal under the law. We don't need to divide Canadians on the basis of race, ethnicity, gender, or sexuality. We can all exercise our right as citizens. Nobody should have special status, and no group should be promoted above all. This is just absolute idiocy, but it's just a desire to pander to identity politics, and it's nauseating. Now, let's get back to the ostriches here, because, I had people, yes, I'm not kidding. Here, let's watch a little B-roll. No, sorry, it's not the one I wanted. I had people come up to, say to me, I think you're a tree hugger, David. I think you're an animal rights activist. And no, I like my trees. I grew up in British Columbia, but I also, like my loggers. And I like my ostriches alive because that's the decision their owners have made. I also love a T-bone steak. So no, I'm not some crazy animal rights activist, but I do believe this is an invasion, not only of private property, but a complete upheaval in these people's lives. They own these ostriches. These ostriches are used in scientific research. What do I mean by that? They are used to study immunity. And they are like family to these people. You all have your dogs and your cats. Are they not like family to you? Do you want the government to come into your door and say, we're taking your dog or your cat because we believe it might be infected with a virus, or we have a right to cull? That's what's happening here in BC. The government thinks it has a right to enter their property, steal their livestock, and kill their livestock. That is an invasion of property. That's a complete denial of their livelihood rights, their right to work, their right to maintain a livelihood, their right to their livestock. And I can't say enough about the courage of these farmers, Katie and her mom and dad, and the people on that farm who are doing everything to ensure that the unthinkable doesn't happen. What's the unthinkable? An Einsatzgruppen enters the premises and culls everything on the farm. 399 birds. That is an outrage. And I don't care if you like ostriches or you don't. If you like your freedom, if you like the fact that we have private property rights very, very shallowly entrenched in our basic rights of Canada, because it's not in the Constitution. Property rights cannot be found in our Constitution. We need them entrenched in the Constitution, but we at least need more legal protection against this invasion of private property. Let's listen to some of the interview I did yesterday, where I think Katie Esperson states it and articulates, enunciates this quite well. And how many days has it been now that these birds have been disease-free?
Yeah, we're 230 days today. We're approaching a year, and that is all so it blows my mind. I haven't watched that actually. I went after Angela a little bit. There was Brian Conway, all these virologists that are speaking in. How do we know if they're sick? And we say test them. That's all we've been asking here at Universal Ostrich Farms, is the ability to test these animals. That not one of these animals out there have been tested that have survived 230 days. And, you know, to hear people with such a high position making such really uneducated responses, it blows our mind. I mean, what has come clear is that Canada, we've sold off our sovereignty a long time ago. And the World Animal Health Organization is taking directives from One Health agenda, which the One Health agenda is World Health Organization. And these animals do prove something, and they do have something for science. You know, where we should be really scared is that they're trying to make us really disconnect us from antibodies, the word antibodies, natural immunity, and they are taking away that importance. If we don't have natural immunity and we just keep stamping out natural immunity, we have a way bigger problem than we have here at Universal Ostrich Farms. I mean, we're literally putting humanity at risk. They don't talk about the losing the biodiversity, losing the genetic diversity in our farms. They don't talk about that we are actually killing off all of our farms. We're losing our livelihoods, our rights to our animals. Ostrich shouldn't be classified as poultry as a massive number one. They are in a category of their own. They are a red meat, flightless bird. They aren't going anywhere, but the migratory ducks that fly around the world are. I've asked them, I said, what are we doing about the migratory birds? And they said, nothing, that's wildlife. What would you do? Kill all the wildlife in the world? And that's insane. Okay, no, let's just wipe out everybody's livestock. And I think that's going to put us into a little bit bigger of a problem. It's we have a living vault of natural immunity here with a renewable source of antibodies that can be put into therapeutics and innovative science to actually help humanity and animals on a global scale. And it's refreshing to see that at least RFK and Dr. Oz recognize that. You guys recognize that. There's some really great independent media sources that recognize that. John Catsimatidis recognizes that this is overstepping. This is our government overstepping, and it's 9 months. We're 9 months into this, and you're right. We do go in with those animals and our hands touch them and we love them. And the fear mongering on H5N1 has to stop, because they are planning the next pandemic. If we allow this to continue, we are going under more mandates. You watch, it's going to be September, and it's going to be cold and flu season, and every sniffle is going to be H5N1. Our beaches and our lakes and everything were not closed this summer if this was such a threat, and we were so worried. Kids have been walking around bare feet and probably swallowing I don't know how much lake water, and they probably all have H5N1 antibodies. I put a challenge out there yesterday. I said, please go get your antibodies tested as a human. Go find somewhere credible. Go get your antibodies tested, and you will be pleasantly surprised to see what you carry in your big, beautiful, natural human system for antibodies, what your own body has overcome without the need of more vaccines that have haven't even had a chance to be tested, without more medication, without more this. And, what has come very clear is that we're at the monopoly with big pharma. It is a push for the next big threat. So I believe for more control. It's, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, I guess, too much, but you look at the 2030 agenda, you start reading these things and you go, here we are losing our land rights, our livelihoods. They come in with based off their policy, which is not law. It's a policy meant to evolve and adapt. And they use a one size fits all approach. They don't use stamping out. They use a one size fits all. They cherry pick through their policy. They decide what they want to use, when they want to use it, and then that just fits them. That just whatever suits them, and in whatever case that they're at.
I don't think it could be stated more clearly, more plainly, and more comprehensively. This is not just about ostriches. It's not just about the livestock on Katie's farm. It's not just about birds or buds, as the CBC reporter phrased it in her fact check or hit piece that we showcased yesterday and the day before that. We've been talking about this CBC. Why did it come out on the weekend? Obviously, because CBC is covering the ass of the Carney government, doing everything it can to justify this killing. That's why. By the way, just saw that the Amuse piece is up. I just want to show you this. Just go to it briefly here. Here it is. All right. This is recorded this morning. I encourage you to go to this and play the recording. This is an update from Katie. Now, this guy apparently reaches into the upper heights of social media, to people like Joe Rogan and to people like Elon Musk. That's what it's going to take, I'm sorry, folks, to get this to stop, because even if we have 100 people on that farm, the authorities will clear them out and arrest them. You know they will. So wanted you to know about that. Have a look at it, listen to it. It's a recording, it's not a video, but have a listen to it. It's important that we stay abreast of this. And I have been covering this story from the day I heard about it. I will continue to, even if it's suppressed, even if the thumb comes down on it. But I think Katie put it as well as anybody could. This is not just about her ostriches. It's about another pandemic being imposed upon you. So you can't work, so you can't walk, so you can't go out, so you can't shop, so you can't get a haircut, so you can't go anywhere without what? The vaccine or the mask? Or what's it going to take next time for you to comply with the government's authoritarian measures? We've been through this once. We're not going through it again. We're going to keep on fighting. Now, in the time remaining here, I want to highlight a couple of stories that I did. This just popped up on the weekend on Blaze Media. A story, my latest story, because I do 3 or 4 stories a month now for Blaze, talking about any cross-border issues I can between Canada and the U.S. And this story is about how Justin Trudeau, remember that notorious tweet, and it was Twitter at the time, so I say tweet, where he said, refugees of the world, come to Canada. Come on, don't worry about immigration, just come on across the border. And they did. And we put them up in 4 or 5-star hotels. We gave them free Medicare. We gave them free legal advice. We gave them jobs. We gave them accommodation. And finally, that seems to be ending. But the illegals are back at the same place that was supposedly closed when Justin Trudeau, then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and then President Joe Biden signed an agreement about the northern border to the States, to close down illegal immigration and to shut down Roxham Road in Quebec. Well, Roxham Road is wide open again, and the illegals are pouring across. It's so ironic that Joe Biden would be so concerned about illegal immigration from Canada when at the same time millions of illegals were pouring in from Mexico on his southern border. But he was totally focused on the illegal immigration from the north, but not on the south. And that's how crazy Joe Biden could be. And I'm going to read more of that story tomorrow. And I also want to flag this one here. Human events. This went up yesterday, and I really enjoyed writing the story because this is the DC mayor of the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. She admits that Trump's plan, and that's his plan to send the National Guard into Washington and potentially next into Chicago. She said, yeah, it's cut crime. Incredibly. Carjackings are down by 87%. Assaults are down. Murders are down. Theft is down. But then she says, it's just not working. How is it not working? Because the Democrats, of course, don't want Donald Trump's plans to ever work. And they don't want any kind of plan that interferes with their plan, which is to keep Black people in a state of chaos. Donald Trump is actually saving the lives of Black people in the United States, because we know the worst crime that the Black community experiences is Black on Black crime. Black people killing each other in gangland violence, in random shootings. Donald Trump is stopping that. He's saying, yeah, Black lives really do matter. Let's tear away the racial rhetoric, and let's tear away the nonsense and just stop the crime, stop people killing each other. And that's helping Black people who are affected by the crime the most. Democrats don't want to give him that. Democrats don't want to admit Donald Trump really cares for Black people, really cares for other minorities, really cares for everybody as equal under the law. No, they don't want to admit that. They don't want to even talk about that, because they have made so much political hay over the years on identity politics, just like Mark Carney's Liberals continue to divide Canadians on the basis of their skin color, their ethnicity, their race, sexuality, and every other factor he can put into it. He's using identity politics just as Justin Trudeau used it. And the Democrats do it in the United States at the same rate. Want to go to my merchandise here. I'll be back with some more. have a look at the store. I really encourage you to. I think it's some great material. So many of you have been supporting it, and I thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. It's so much appreciated. Please share this broadcast today with your friends and family. Let them know about Stand on Guard and the fact we do cover issues that are of importance to you. I'm going to be discussing this week one of my main concerns about social media and about podcasting, broadcasting on YouTube, on Rumble, but more specifically on YouTube. If you know anything about the 19th century and the print media of the time, and that was basically it. There was no radio, there was no television, there was no internet, and obviously you know that. There were periodicals, there were magazines, and there was daily newspapers, and everybody got their news from the daily. But in those days, of course, daily newspapers were completely aligned with political parties in Canada and the US. That's why we still have a paper like the Kingston Whig Standard. And it was originally like a Whig newspaper. It was a liberal newspaper. And if you look at the United States, papers were lined up with political parties, mostly with the Democratic Party, because it was the party that was the oldest, but with the Whig Party for a while it was an alternative to the Democrats. When the Republicans came on the scene in 1856, there were newspapers aligned with the Republican Party. So if you wanted to know what the news was, you really had to read both papers, a Republican paper and a Democratic paper, because the Republicans only told you the news that was favorable to Republicans, and they interpreted the news in a way that was favorable to Republicans. The Democratic papers likewise for the Democrats. Now, for a lot of the 20th century, the mainstream media was fairly objective. You could trust Walter Cronkite to a large degree. You could trust the New York Times and the Washington Post. Generally, they weren't really in the bag for the Democratic Party. Eventually, that sort of changed. And with the advent of cable news, of course, we're back to that again. With CNN, of course, is with the Democrats. MSNBC is with the Democrats. Fox News is with the Republicans. But here's my concern. I'm going to be delving into this later in the week. Social media, podcasts, broadcasts are becoming just like that. They're becoming echo chambers. They're becoming propaganda organs, especially in Canada, for the conservatives or the liberals. Basically, those two. I don't see a lot of NDP aligned social media out there. I see Green Party aligned, but we have got to get away from being echo chambers. We need to be able to criticize ourselves. Now, I'm a small C conservative. I don't belong to any political party. I largely support what the Conservative Party of Canada does. But there are times I'm completely opposed to what the Conservative Party of Canada does and says. I think they have been completely inadequate about this ostrich farm. They've said nothing. And they have been far too late on other issues. I'm not afraid to criticize them because I'm not a propaganda organ. I'm trying to give you all the news you need to know, and I'm not afraid to ask questions, to put on guests who challenge the Conservative Party. And of course, I challenge the Liberals every day. I challenge Mark Carney constantly. But we cannot just say good things about our political party of choice, because if we do that, that political party of choice will inevitably become more and more liberal. It will be pushed further and further to the left. We have got to be critical from the right. We have got to insist upon honesty and not be propaganda vehicles. I'll be delving into that more later in the week, but I wanted to introduce that to you today. Hope the sun is going to break through here in the Ottawa area, because I was hoping to get out because yesterday I worked all day. And don't try to go to a lake or a beach in this area on Labor Day. Hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. I can't believe we're into September. And here we are, September 2nd. Well, let's pray and let's hope for a great the remaining 3 weeks of summer turn out to be fantastic. And there's a lot of people I talk to who really don't think we have much longer on this earth. I don't mean in terms of the personal lives or the personal expectations, but in terms of where this earth is going, where this world is going in the end times and all of that. And I'm listening. I don't know, because I've heard it all before, and I believed it all before in terms of the imminent end of our cycle. But it's interesting to see. Watch the news, watch what's happening, see where we're going, and treat each day as if it's your last. Live your life. Love the people around you. Hug your children. Hug your wife or husband, your girlfriend or boyfriend. Enjoy the people around you, because life is short. And I don't know how many people you no longer have in your life as a result of the unexpected consequences of that last pandemic, but I have quite a few. But we're forging forth, and I make every day count now, because we need to do that. Love your neighbor as yourself. And even if you're not a Christian or a spiritual person or a religious person, that is something to live by. Thank you for watching today. It's been a pleasure as always. I'll be back again tomorrow. God bless you all, and Godspeed to you all.